Adam was at the riverside when Eve woke. She walked through the garden to find him. Not fearful. Why should she be?
Eve. Eve, my child.
You are the serpent.
And you are the loveliest thing in a perfect garden. If only you knew it.
I do know it now. You have told me.
Will you pick some fruit for us?
Here.
Not peaches today.
What then?
Something rare and delicate. There, in the middle.
No, not that.
No. Doesn't it make your mouth water? And the scent of it?
We may pick of any of the fruits of the garden.
Well, of course.
Except those. Those we must not touch. The Lord God has forbidden us.
If God forbids this or that, Eden is no better than a prison.
No, we are free.
Well, if God has said you are free, then be free. Pick and eat.
But if we eat the fruit of that tree, we will die.
You will not die. Death is a big word. You don't understand it. But you could understand everything. Don't you want to be like that God you love so much?
Like God? Yes.
But you would rather be a slave. Does such a God need slaves?
He asks for obedience.
And would God have put the tree in the garden if it truly brought death?
I cannot argue with God.
Unless you taste the fruit.
Why do I feel the world pulling against me? The air is thick.
Insurmountable odds greatly. The female of the species is more deadly than the male. Oh, shock, shock, horror, horror, shock, shock, horror. I'll shop myself hoarse for your supernatural force. The female of the species is more deadly than the male. Oh, she deals in witchcraft and one kiss and I'm zapped. Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me? Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me? Frankenstein and Dracula have nothing on you. Jekyll and Hyde join the back of the queue. The female of the species is more deadly than the male. She wants to conquer the world completely, but first she'll conquer me discreetly. The female of the species is more deadly than the male. She deals in witchcraft, and one kiss and I'm zapped. Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me? Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me? She deals in witchcraft, and one kiss and I'm zapped. Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me? Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me?
Top of the morning to you. I hope you're all fine and dandy and staying ahead of the game. Remember, it is a game, and each one of us must play a part. Thank you for joining me again, and welcome. Today we're going to look at the Maiden Stone, just outside Inverurie, next to Capel in Aberdeenshire in Scotland. And this is a very interesting stone, but rather than me just talk about it, here's a bit of audio from a broadcast from one of the locals, and I'll put a link in.
So what is the Maiden Stone? Well, it's probably one of the best examples of Pictish stonework with carvings in it that actually still stands today. It's 3 meters tall, and it's made from a sort of pinkish granite, which, you know, granite is what Aberdeen is known for, so it makes sense. It's thought to have been carved around AD 700, but there's quite a bit of debate about that. It's quite interesting. So it's thought to be one of the last symbol-bearing monuments to have been erected in Aberdeenshire, and it's thought to stand really close to its original location. On the actual stone itself, it has quite a few different carvings. It's thought that it's quite a biblical thing, because there's a cross on the actual carvings of the Maiden Stone. So on one side of the stone you see a ring-headed cross on the bottom, and on top of this ring-headed cross there's a male figure which has 2 sort of sea monsters on the side of it. It's thought that this might have been Jonah escorted by 2 whales, which is where the biblical side of it comes in. There's also some ornate carved patterns which are a sort of key pattern and knotwork. On the other side it's divided into 4 panels, which has carvings of a centaur and other animals. There's also a notched rectangle with a Z rod, a Pictish beast, and a mirror with a double-sided comb on that side of the stone. Now, as a cross slab, it does seem to be a Christian monument, and judging by its scale, it was probably intended to be quite a significant landmark in that area. Now, one of the most intriguing things for me about the Maiden Stone, and is one of the things that a lot of the folklore surrounds, is there's actually a part of the Maiden Stone missing. There's a notch out from one of the sides of the Maiden Stone. Now this leads me right in to my first folklore story about the Maiden Stone. So, there's a couple different stories that surround the Maiden Stone, but one of the most popular ones, and the one that I was definitely taught when I was a kid, is the one where the Maiden Stone is the embodiment of the daughter of the Laird of Balquhain, who was turned to stone by God on her wedding morning to save her from the devil. It's said that when the daughter of the Lord of Balquhain was making bread to serve her guests at her wedding, she was approached by a dark, manly figure. Now what he did was he posed a challenge to this woman. He said, "I bet I can build a road to the top of Benahee before you have finished baking your last batch of bread." Now, to give you some context, Benahee is a 1,600-foot summit which laid about 2 miles away from where they were. So she looked at him and she was like, "Oh yeah, I can do that. What's the wager?" He said, "If I win, you must marry me instead of your fiancé." And she was like, "Okay, whatever, I'll just keep baking my bread." Inexplicably, the road was built before her baking was complete. Much to her horror, she thought she had it in the bag. When the man approached her and said, "I've built my road," she looked at him in disbelief. She panicked. She knew what was coming next, so she ran. She said some prayers as she fled. Now, there's a couple of variations of the ending of this folklore. One of them is that God turned her into stone to protect her from the devil, and the dark figure that gave her the challenge was the devil. Another one is that when she was seized by the devil, because of her prayers, she immediately turned into stone, and the part of it that's been broken off one of the sides disappeared at the grasp of the devil. And one of the other stories that surrounds the Maiden Stone is simply that it was a memorial to a young woman who was killed as a result of a dispute between two families, and the carvings on one of the sides are all the things that she loved.
Well, thank you very much for that. Once again, we're hearing sort of the run-of-the-mill explanation of what these standing stones are. In the introduction to the video, I actually put in the text showing that it was Hercules at the top of the Celtic cross, but we'll get to that later on. First of all, I want to try and draw everyone's attention to the importance of what I'm trying to show here. We have standing stones that are said to be the 7th or the 8th century, but there's much debate over them. Some say they're much older, some say they're many thousands of years older. But who knows? What we do know, or what we can decipher from the stones, is they're depicting things in the heavens. So, but I want to begin here because this story in the heavens is so important because it has shaped mankind for apparently 2,000 years. And the idea that Adam and Eve sinned within a garden with a tree and a snake and is deep rooted in our culture and our way of thinking, even if you're not Christian or Jewish or religious in any way. It's deep rooted in our society that Adam and Eve sinned, and therefore Eve, who was the one who took of the fruit of the tree, is the one to blame. And we do see that filtered down into society because, at least for the last couple of 100 years, we know that women have been tied to the kitchen sink as such and been dominated by their partners. Even recently, up until the 80s, where domestic violence against a woman was acceptable, which I mentioned, according to the law, which I mentioned in a previous video. So we're all very familiar with the story of the woman Eve and the forbidden fruit. Even if you've never been religious in any way, you'll know that Eve was the one who was deceived. And since that event in the Garden of Adonai, mankind has been prone to committing wickedness and sins against their Creator and his covenant lands ever since. Where did these stories originate from? Are these stories of Adam and Eve, Abraham, Sarah and so forth true events? Did these characters, who we are all familiar with, actually exist? Or is there something more wonderful and unique hidden in the text we call the Holy Scriptures? Let's begin with Adam and Eve and the fall of man. If you viewed my other video on YouTube titled The Stones of Cassiopeia, a reflection of emotional deception and sin, which I posted on December the 27th, 2025, you'll know that Adam and Eve are represented by two circumpolar asterisms in the heavens, known as the House of Cephas, which is Adam, and Cassiopeia, which is Eve. These two ancient asterisms are revered in almost every culture throughout the earth. If you don't know the story of King Cephas and Cassiopeia and their daughter Andromeda from the Greek renditions, I suggest you go and read it, because it's paramount to the understanding the beast system, which enchains us and holds us captive even to this day. But in the Greek understanding, Andromeda boasted, or Cassiopeia boasted, of her vanity, her own beauty, against the sea nymphs. And Poseidon apparently sent a flood, and a great beast known as the Kraken, the Leviathan, to devour King Cephas and Cassiopeia's daughter Andromeda. So, and it's all very important part of the story, because if you have seen my previous video on Cassiopeia and the stones and the reflection, you understand that it's a desire, it's reflecting it's an inner desire, and it's nothing to do with the serpent at all, but the Kundalini energies play a part in us being taken down into our lowest base form to serve our animalistic desires, let's say. And yeah, so throughout ancient history, these two asterisms, Cassiopeia and Cephas, have been very important. The Chinese envisage these stars in the northern hemisphere as the inner throne of the five emperors. The throne is said to apply to the zigzag crown shape which the stars of Cassiopeia make as they circle the foundation stone. This zigzag or W shape of Cassiopeia is, in my opinion, probably why the Hebrew letter Shin or Sin exists, but I'll come back to this zigzag shape throughout the video. The house of Cephas and his bride Queen Cassiopeia are marked by standing stones in and around Aberdeenshire in Scotland. Cephas is, according to the author Andis Collins, in his book Stars, Stones and Scholars, the same as the pharaonic Egyptian Cheops. You'll find this on page 43 of Andis Collins' book Stars, Stones and Scholars. Andis Collins also states in this chapter that Cephas is also mentioned in the Sumerian temple hymns as Isi Abzu, the shrine which is the Abzu. Now this is very interesting, and I made this connection many years ago. The Aberdeen Airport, in the north of Scotland, which is, within the house of Cephas, marked within the standing stones. The Aberdeen Airport code is ABZ. So the ABZ, the only thing that's missing here is Abzu. So the Sumerians recognised this part of the heavens as the Abzu, and also the land beneath this part in the heavens. They called it the shrine of the Abzu, and it was also known as the go-around. And the reason why it's known as the go-around is because Cassiopeia and Cephas circle, and Cephas has his foot on the pole star Polaris, and they circle round in a battle with the great serpent Draco. And of course the pyramid at Giza, the central pyramid is the pyramid of Cheops, and the pyramids at Giza are all aligned to the north celestial pole Polaris, and the great throne of Osiris, which is Cephas, the king, who sits in the north. So I would like to, at this point, want to thank Marty at the Gnostic Academy, who clearly and concisely points out that these two asterisms, Cephas and Cassiopeia, are indeed Adam and Eve. And he shows us in his video Adam and Eve in under 5 minutes, which I used in the introduction of the previous video. So I began this video showing an animation of the fall of Eve, and then quickly moved to an elaborate dance that we see in the heavens as the stars move round in a circumpolar anti-clockwise direction around the North Celestial Pole, Polaris. And we see this dance and of course a fall as we see Adam and Eve and their damsel in distress Andromeda as they spiral around and then fall down from the North Celestial Pole, seemingly to the underworld. And Anders Collins, again in his book Starstones and Scholars, couldn't be more correct because about his discoveries that these stones are marking everything under the North Celestial Pole, because I have studied these things for over 40 years and I can also show that the biblical mysteries because I was involved in religion, both Christianity and Judaism. I trained to be a minister and then I was training to be a rabbi. So I trained, learned the languages. I understand Hebrew. I understand the stories very well. I was many years in it. So when I put together my big biblical knowledge and the interest that I had in the heavens, I soon discovered that the entire of the British Isles, the entire lands of the British Isles are telling the story which we call the biblical narrative. So, and I have studied these standing stones in Aberdeenshire for over 40 years. I can show quite clearly the biblical narratives and how these stories unfold up and down the British Isles, up and down what we call ley lines, but especially up and down one particular ley line, which is the Spine of Albion, which passes right through the centre of the British Isles and would represent the spine of the living man, or the living being. So enough of this, and that was the introduction to, let's look at the to what we were looking at here. So let's look at the stones and the Maiden stone, which is also known as the Drumdurno stone, just northwest of the town of Inverurie. Every time I look at these stones, I am completely bewildered when I look at the explanations and the boards and anything that I read about them, because every university qualified archaeologist or historian, whatever they describe, they are at a loss to what these images are. But anyone with any intellect can look at these stones, just as me and my friends and other people have, such as the Maiden stone, and we can see the asterisms Centaurus or Sagittarius, which is the centaurs, and we can see Cassiopeia. The queen is clearly, Cassiopeia clearly holds a mirror, so that's the Coleman queen is clearly Cassiopeia. So how people don't understand or say we don't know what this is and we don't know what that is beyond me. I suppose Anders Collins titles his book Starstones and Scholars because he's having a perpetual dig. He's having a go at the scholarly narratives who do nothing but conceal the true mystery and wonder of these isles. We've been lied to by what we've been taught by our own institutions. The true nature of who we are and what these lands have given to the world has been concealed, buried, rebranded and retold in various forms. For one purpose really: to steal our divine sovereignty, to take away from you that divinity that is the living image of the living Creator. You are a reflection of the Almighty, and your story, the entire story, is not only set on stone and on these isles, but it's also eternally written in the heavens above you, and also within you.